honestly, for simplicity's sake. I normally have them out of frame, but I thought, what the heck, why not? So, let me know if that's something that you don't mind, or if it's kind of distracting, because, yeah, your feedback is important to me, but anyhow, I wanted to start this video off with a particular topic. That topic being my nose. In yesterday's video, the Guess the Word video, which was very fun, might I add. I'll probably do one of those again. I had mentioned that I was kind of leaning forward a lot, so you're getting a close-up of my big nose. I would say about 60 to 70% of the comments were all talking about how that I shouldn't make fun of my own nose, because it's a good nose, which that's very kind of you all to say. Thank you. I didn't expect such a army of nose enthusiasts, so thank you for the empowering words to my nose. But I just wanted to clear the air, I suppose, and make it very clear that I wasn't, well, I was making fun of my nose, but in a playful manner. Believe it or not, I've had this here nose that you're seeing now since I was born. I've grown up with it. I grew it myself, actually, so and you know, over the 24 years of having it attached to my face, I've grown quite fond of it and don't want it to go anywhere. So all that to say, I like my nose. It's do, and I also can't breathe through it quite as well anymore either. I've had a lot of cuts and abrasions on the inside of my nose from all the sparring over the years. So there's lots of scar tissue, and it gets in the way of airflow, years ago, but I was subbing for this class, and directly in front of the teacher's desk, there was a table group right in front of me. It was table groups of 4, and there was these 2 kids sitting right in front of me with their backs to me. Well, they're sitting next to each other, right? I'm kind of looking up from my desk and just scanning the room, making sure everybody's doing alright. Substitute teaching is really just babysitting, if I'm being honest. Anyway, I'm looking at these 2 kids, and I'm looking around the room, and all of a sudden I see the kid on the left. He starts to kind of like do that thing where like he starts raising his head up as if to sneeze, right? And I saw it coming, right? But he raises his head up, and then, he was a pretty young kid. He didn't really have the whole sneeze into the elbow maneuver down 100%. So he had the part where you turn your head in to the right, but he didn't have the whole actually lifting your elbow to your face part. So he turned to the right and just sneezed right in the other kid's face.